I just thought I'd make a quick video update of my general documentation. And basically, it's not much to say, really. I've got something humorous to say that might give someone out there a much-needed laugh. I know it gave me a laugh, and I need that for the sake of sweet sanity, in a non-offensive way. Because it involves someone with a disability, and, you know, I'm not the type to laugh. I don't laugh at people's disabilities. I have to laugh at myself. You know, speaking as someone who's got a transgender sister who has actually cared for people with severe, I don't know what the PC word is, but, you know, mentally handicapped people. I don't know what the PC word is now. Yeah, but my transgender sister was knocked unconscious by someone she cared for. So, yeah, I'm not someone who laughs at people's mental health. We all have to laugh at the madness of life. My life is more insane than Victor Meldrew's and Basil Fawlty's, believe me. That's why if I was to bring out a newspaper, I'd bring out my own Eastbourne Weekly, and I'd do my own comic sketches, and they'd be funny, believe me. I'd do my own cartoons. I want to write my own Ricky Gervais style comedy one day, if I ever survive all this. It would have to be a very, 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 very black comedy, though. Uber black. On that note, talking of newspapers, me and my partner were on the bus the other day, and we had a copy of The Light. Is it The Light? I'll have to ask him to give it to me so that I can read off exactly what's on this paper, because it's everything I've been saying. Same words. There are psychopaths in the hospital. They're MK Ultra'd. This 46-year-old woman whose 54-year-old husband was murdered in the hospital. And it's basically telling you the truth that people need. And on that note, I've watched the first 4 hours of the SRA conference with Jeanette Archer, the first ever International Satanic Ritual Abuse conference. And believe me, it is... wow. I was crying at one point because it was just so... the graphic information of these amazing survivors, it is and one of the survivors is from Brighton, and wow, you've got to listen to it for yourself. I had no idea that there were tunnels in Brighton or anywhere. Well, I was coming to the understanding that through Jeanette Archer that there are underground tunnels in the UK where unthinkable things are being done to children and adults, survivors of satanic ritual abuse. There are underground tunnels. It's not just in America, it's in the UK, it's everywhere around the world, particularly New Zealand. And my mother lived in these countries. She wanted to settle in New Zealand. And it's interesting that the Catholic Church was mostly run by Freemasons in New Zealand at that time, when the SRA was child torture and sacrifice in the name of SRA was taking place in New Zealand. I actually had my first Holy Communion just down the road in this town that I grew up in, and at the Sacred Heart Church. And did you know Sacred Heart is an MK Ultra style programming term for suicide programming? Sacred Heart, the word Sacred Heart is a programming, it's a suicide program. A bit of an irony there, isn't there? What with me desperately trying to suicide myself within the last few years. What else have I got to say? I had a chat. I was in Burger King earlier today with my partner, who encouraged me to speak to, I won't say his name, but the manager of Eastbourne Poundland. We already have our opinions about PC Scott Franklyn Leicester, and I made a video about that. My partner also got the badge number of that very, very vicious, dangerous psychopath thug PC McCarthy when he arrested him. And if you look on my Facebook page, you'll see the bruises of what he did to me on our world famous suicide spot when I got news of my father's death. Because this is all a form of human trafficking. I just think it's brilliant, actually, that we're all doing what the Bible says, Ephesians, expose evil, have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of evil, rather expose it. And that's what we're doing. And it's just, honestly, that satanic ritual abuse conference on the 16th, 3 days ago, that was amazing. I'm getting so engrossed. Some of those stories, it all makes sense. Well, with what has been done to me in the last 7 years by Eastbourne Borough Council and the police and the psychiatric unit, and meeting John Alexander Patterson, a fraud investigator. I went to the conference where an ex-Sussex police sergeant, who's a friend of my late mother's, from a small village nearby, and everything's been exposed. I met victims of satanic ritual abuse and human trafficking. Two in particular who were in their late 60s and early 70s. One was an ex-prostitute turned Jehovah's Witness. The other was the victim of a satanic ritual cult in South Africa, who experienced all the things that people like Jeanette Archer have experienced. I don't know if she was forced into cannibalism and that sort of thing, but believe me, these people have had it all. So I've come on this journey, and that was after Abba Yahweh showed me the witchcraft that I was involved with without realising it, and my psychic abilities, and what is known as commonly as MK Ultra and the brainwashing is now coming further and further and further to the forefront of those who want the truth. And it's, if you want the truth, it's there. You just You just got to look for it because it's there. It's there if you want it. And it's there in the Light newspaper. And they're using the same phrases I've been using. So, and people like, what's her name? Okay, she turned funny with me, but Rachel Caruso, she's saying what I've been saying about the social engineering and these psychopaths, and using the same phrases that they used on me, like we're going round in circles and all of that, you know. So, but yeah, I was in Burger King earlier today, and I'll just take a sip of my tea, and big slurp, and Scott Franklin Lester, who was mentioned online as having these medals. I went up to the manager of Poundland in Burger King, and I said, did you know that he was in the local news? There he is with his medals and his colleagues. I made a video about it a few videos back, and he said, oh yeah, my mate tried to comment underneath. There have been about at least 12 complaints made against him, and he said my wife or girlfriend, partner, I don't know which, his female partner, the mother of his daughter, his little daughter, he was telling me how she was pinned up against the glass in the windows in is it Tesco's by PC Scott Franklin Lester, and because he said that she was shoplifting or something, it just made this assumption. And he said my 3-year-old daughter was screaming and crying and saying, oh, daddy. I said, well, she's going to be traumatised for life. Crumbs. But yeah, no, he's known for bullying the vulnerable, but his colleagues, his mates in the force at Sussex Police have elevated him, you know, and nominated him for these awards or whatever, because they're all in the club, aren't they? And basically, yeah, he said that his wife, girlfriend / partner, I don't know which, the mother of his daughter, is now terrified that the police are going to... She has about 3 locks on the door because she's scared that they'll come knocking on the door. I said, that's how I feel. That's how I feel about them. But I've got something more to say about this. If you haven't seen the Satanic Ritual Abuse Conference, because I think that there will be people out there who are trained, who may be victims of satanic ritual abuse, because they've got different labels like sleepers and whatever. A lot of them don't realise that they're even brainwashed. But I think they're put... Well, I'll come to that in a minute. But they're put into these positions for the New World Order. And I've got something to say about that anyway. So but this very nice, friendly chap, manager of Poundland, he said every time his daughter sees a police car, she'll get scared and go, daddy. I said, that's just, I mean, crumbs, I'm long in the tooth now, but that's how I feel. And I said, I'm getting my therapy from talking to you, because I said people don't realise it, because I might walk around looking all polite and maybe a bit glamorous or something, but actually I've been permanently traumatised within the past 7 years of targeting, and I said I'm just constantly in a state of trauma as a result of this, and it's only by the power of prayers and my partner encouraging me that I can get through this. as John Patterson said, all partners, all husbands and wives and partners have arguments. It's part of life. It doesn't mean you should be on the sharp end of brutality, you know, but it's all been set up. Everything, absolutely everything has been set up this way. And you just need to watch the conference, the Satanic Ritual Abuse Conference, because it will blow your mind what some of these people, these survivors of these cults, like the man who was born in 1964 and his partner, and how he was programmed, and the intricate and sophisticated programming that they've been doing for centuries, let alone decades, what with the Tavistock Institute, and how his wife, they looked like normal, lovely people, but he was cross-dressing and pretending to want to be a woman because he was programmed satanic witchcraft by the Freemasons to have that marriage destroyed. And she one day had a vague memory of finding herself hanging from a rope in a warehouse with her husband below her, because he just blurted it out one day. He had the suicide programming, he had everything. From the day he was born in 1964, in his mother's birth canal, he was murdered and then brought back to life because they didn't want him born in the image of God, Yahweh. They wanted him born in the image of Lucifer. So there you go. There is so much. But it's absolutely fascinating. And these brave survivors, it takes decades of healing. This one particular man who went into graphic detail about how he was a 5-year-old boy being sodomized whilst being forced to watch his female friend, who was also a small child, being sacrificed on a stone table across here and down here, having her insides murdered while she was alive, and having her heart taken out, and he was force-fed his friend's heart, and then forced to stab a live baby to death. And this incredible, brave man, and you then see how these super soldiers then go on to go into, these real heroes, these strong people go into war zones and all that kind of thing to defend the vulnerable and the innocent. But Jeanette Archer is thankfully I'm getting more and more, she's giving herself more and more credibility, because she has, like all these many people, they say that most, if not all, survivors of satanic ritual abuse will have been had sophistic training in super soldier training. So that means trained to be assassins. And this has been pre-planned since the 70s or the 60s and the 70s, when they called it the One World Order. It's now called the New World Order. This has all been pre-planned. And it's so important, because then we know what battle we are going to be facing. I listen to people like Sam Hill as well. So if I get anonymous calls, I haven't had anonymous calls since I've been getting legal help. Please note, I've been saying in my videos, is anyone going to harass me? Please do. I'm not bothered. Keep ringing me, exhaust yourselves. But they're not going to, because I'm getting legal aid now. But if I do get any anonymous calls, you'll know why. Because this Helen Janes, when I was in my partner's friend's flat, and my partner's friend is a lawyer, and her late father was a top lawyer in Nigeria. make of it what you will. I was getting targeted whilst I was in her flat and banging on the door and all this. And this Helen Janes started targeting me and called me a racist, a terrorist, all the things that she was calling Jeanette Archer. But these people are damaged. They may have had satanic ritual abuse themselves. They may have been, who knows? At the end of the day, I don't care. I only care about those who have a desire for doing what is right under Abba Yahweh, what is right, the straight and narrow path, not the wide path that leads to destruction. We all have a choice. So to finish on that note, about PC Scott Franklyn Leicester and what the manager of Poundland was telling me, because PC Scott Franklyn Leicester, when he arrested me and released me onto the streets in my nightwear, this is all over a welfare check on Beachy Head, and you have a look. I came very close to suing the Herald for libel. They look at what that thug did to me. Bruises all over my body. As a response to my father's death, I then ring, and Juliet, whether Juliet is watching me or not, I'm going to let her know that I've got an appointment with adult social care, because she works as a support worker for the same association that failed me, that my transgender sister worked for as a support worker, the same people, the same Southdown housing. And I will be, because you, Juliet, are a crucial witness. And with the police abusing powers thing, you were not honest with me. That care coordinator was sacked. My GP is in massive shtuck. The General Medical Council is a scam, okay? I don't know if you've been watching me or if you are watching me or what. But I know that troll that you said, that random stranger that contacted you, was Dan from Police Abusing Powers. Okay? And the fact of the matter is, you're a witness to crimes committed against me. You work for the authorities. And I do pray that you're getting better from your cancer treatment. But what you did was out of order. To get your mother to come in and bully me out of your flat when you had got me to stay in there. That was out of order on any level, whether you're a friend or not. I was in your bath, your mum comes in, all these people, the same police thugs. Anyway, I'm not even going to keep repeating it, but isn't it interesting that the video message that I made for you, Juliet, just a few weeks ago, just a few weeks back, about a month, 2 months ago, it was a message for you, and I was worried about my gold ring. Did people show concern about that? No, they didn't. They looked at one little bruise where me and my partner had a scuffle. I shoved him back, and I even told the thugs that when they were arresting him. Because it was the same thug who bruised me all over my body. If you look on Facebook, you see what that thug PC McCarthy did to me as a response to my father's death. Was anyone concerned about that? Because I actually called you, Juliet, and I said my hands are in pain. I had to get paramedics to look at my injured hands. So whoever and whatever you're listening to, Juliet, it's not me and it's not Darren. It's these and that police abusing powers community that you reported. Warrior Wales has evidence of them saying, I hope Bryony suicides. So they're inciting suicide, and you're a support worker for the local authorities. And whether you're going through cancer treatment or not, you and I had been to the local MP together. You and I had emailed the local government and social care ombudsman, and you are a crucial witness to serious crimes against me. And you were on the phone when I was in pain before those paramedics turned up over beatings. This is when I received news of my father's death. That same day that I received news of my father's death back in February, I'd been on the phone to Ray Savage, the ex-Sussex police sergeant from the conference, and he has no idea that my home has been stolen from me. His nephew was found with concrete tied to his legs in the harbour because he's been exposing what everyone needs to wake up to. Your nephew is in a very dangerous care system, Juliet. Children are being used as currency by social services and all these people. And if you want the truth, it's there for you. My partner and I were both arrested. I was assaulted and beaten several times. And I was telling the manager of Poundland today, earlier, when I was in Poundland, Burger King, he said, darling, you can talk to me anytime. And I was telling him about how the security guards in the hospital had assaulted me several times, given me a bleeding nose when I put my arm up to defend my partner Darren. And as I put my arm up, the security guard grabbed my partner. My arm was trapped between them and I got dragged along the ground and my face hit the doors. This is in a hospital where I visited my mother in oncology. You can wake up or you can stay asleep. If you stay asleep, don't ever come back to me and say, I wish I'd listened to you, Bryony, because there's going to come a day when you bloody well wish you had, if you're not already listening and actually acting on what I'm telling you. Because you will wish that you had taken me seriously. If not now, then in the future. This manager of Poundland was saying to me, the security guards cannot touch you. He said, if you're on public property, they have no right. I said, well, they've done it many times. I said, and I'm so glad it gave me an opportunity to really open up. Because I said to him that Councillor Josh Babarundi had told me to go down to the council offices, which I did. And as a direct result of that, I was assaulted, pushed and shoved out of the council offices for the umpteenth time. And I said, we're not safe. None of us are safe with these thugs called the police. We're not safe with anyone anymore. We're only safe with Abby Yahweh. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my partner and strengthening my faith. I still have to get other people to help me with his so-called Christian friends, one of whom works at the food bank, Steve, and Eben. And if you're watching Eben, and if you're watching Steve, because I don't know, or Juliet, I don't know, because I don't know who's watching me. For all I know, the proprietors of this property could be watching me. I hope not, but then tongues wag. Which brings me to my next subject, which will tickle, if no one else, I'm walking away laughing. Because what goes around comes around. So yeah, so I'm going to have to, obviously get intervention with these people. But, it's like I can't trust anyone. I mean, You know what I was saying in my past video, I showed a video of the dogs barking and, oh gosh, and yet my partner's not allowed in here. I'm owed thousands and thousands of pounds of compensation and reimbursement, including my partner, because I'm having to give money to him. I'm having to get on a bus to get free food. I'm giving money to him. His father should be reimbursed. My partner's friend needs reimbursing. He gave me a few £100 when all my back pip had run out, because I had to flee that property. I was telling the manager of Poundland earlier about what happened at Belmore Road, and that one of my assailants was mentioned in the national news as mugging the elderly, and that I'd helped a plainclothes police officer. And what were they doing? They were targeting and torturing me. So it felt so good to open up to this man who's, as I said, PC Scott Franklin Lester, who's got all his medals. 3 hours after I ring 999 and I've recorded this dangerous criminal on a tag threatening to beat me senseless, he turns up, arrests me in my nightwear, trembling, terrified, and releases me onto the streets of Brighton in my nightwear. And he said to me, "That's bloody dangerous." I said, "I know." The police were putting me, someone who's been to court and put someone 2 years in prison and 10 years on a sex offenders register, and then PC McCarthy and PC Ford and all these idiots are calling my partner a C word to my face and saying I'm full of BS and putting a leg restraint on me in A&E. He said, "That's the place where you should feel safe." Yes, I know. This is a hospital where I visited my mother in oncology, and I've had to deal with all of this on my own. My mother went through so much in her life. She travelled the world from the age of 18. She had an illegal abortion 24 years before I was born. A cop took her to Pennsylvania back in 1958. And then she told me this at the end of her life. And all we thought was that I would just get a bit of support in the community with early childhood trauma that I didn't even realise I had had before the age of 4. I didn't realise how bad it was, because I had had all the Disney World programming and all of that stuff, and the demonic strongholds and generational curses and the I can relate to the dissociative identity disorder. And I think my middle sister, who's living as a man, my middle sister who's living as a man will have something to say about that. So Darren's trying to ring me right now. But I'll finish on a funny note. So I can pause this. Hang on. Finish my cup of tea. This is a good thing about not being able to live stream. Right, so yeah, no, I was just speaking to my partner on the phone just now. The paralegal has put in the email about, I've been saying, I'm not happy to pay to stay here because there's a really bad smell here of dogs, wet dogs, and it smells like someone's, I don't know, pissed on one of these. There are 2 mattresses in here, and I don't know, there's something, it's not nice, pardon my language. And I've got the Ambipure plug-in on full blast, and even with the air freshener, and I can't get rid of the smell, and it's, and when you've got OCD, and I'm getting eczema again because I scrub my skin. I have to have 2 baths a day, and I've sent the paralegal, you see, for all I know, the proprietor of this place could know about my videos. After all, if the counsellors have tongues wagging. And anyway, I've got something funny to say about talking about tongues wagging. But yeah, no. So if the mother is nice, but no, you just can't trust people in these places. And the thing is, the washing machine has got, I made a video of the washing machine. It's got thick dog hairs congealed in the washing machine. And I when I go to a laundrette, I bring a whole packet of wet wipes. I wipe around the washing machine, like I scrub it clean. Even the tumble dryer, I wipe everything. I'm the queen of wet wipes, I never used to be like this, but then this is what OCD, trauma, bereavement, and of course exacerbated stress, homelessness, being attacked. This is what it does to you. Just telling the truth. So yeah, and I'm not paying for anything when I'm owed thousands of pounds. My partner and I, his father, people are owed reimbursement, not just me. And until I've seen my gold heirloom ring, no one's getting anything. You, Eastbourne Borough Council, you are providing less than what you should have done years ago. And the only reason why Andrew Cook accepted a new housing benefit form, application, shall we say, is because the barristers were just about ready to take Eastbourne Borough Council to court. And at the last minute, they said, no, they didn't want to be taken to court on my behalf, no. Because they were accepting a new housing application. So I've just had this email from the paralegal talking about supported accommodation and all this nonsense. And we all know, those of us who've been there, that temporary accommodation and supported accommodation are the same thing. I was dragged out of the self-contained flat that was brand new, that I was told by the care coordinator who worked for my GP practice, I can have it as long as I need it. She's been sacked. It was the same place I was in 7 years ago. It was called the Saffron. There was 8 years ago, before I was at the Saffron, there was an online petition ignored by the Eastbourne Food Bank, the Trestle Trust, Illuminati-owned food bank, and they ignored the online petition saying, stop bullying the vulnerable and the disabled. And nothing's changed. Because the same one who bullied me when I was there again and I was beaten by the police on a world-famous suicide spot, as I direct as a response to my father's death on a world-famous suicide spot. It's no different to when they forced me to sign a homeless application form 6 days before my mother died of a rare cancer out of supported accommodation. So people are not listening. And I already have a recording of an hour, just over an hour's interview at Belmore Road with a social worker, Lauren Bernard, and Sue Wagstaff, and it's over an hour long. And in the recording, they're offering me a 1-bedroom flat, which is something they kept lying to me about. They never did offer me a 1-bedroom flat. And I had to flee that property because, as you can see on my YouTube channel, I was attacked. Blood was on my door. Oh, there's something else I've got to say. We bumped into my partner's friend. This will give you a laugh. It's also very stressful as well. Right, so I'm just going to end this YouTube video with a light note, then I'm going to have a bath and then I'm going to go to sleep. Let me think. It was yesterday. Yesterday in the Arndale Centre. It will always be the Arndale Centre. I've been to Eastbourne since the 80s, since I was a child, and it's the most notoriously... I've lived down here all of my life, bar the first 4 years. So I know what Eastbourne is like, because as I said, I used to go to the Arndale Centre in the 80s and the 90s. My partner worked there when I was little, because he's a lot older than me. And I know what my mother was always having problems with people. We know what Eastbourne's like, but until you've actually been a vulnerable person, Terminus Road is apparently the UK's worst human trafficking and drugs road is Terminus Road in Eastbourne. We didn't realise it was one of the most dangerous roads in Eastbourne until recently. Me and my partner learned that, which makes sense, really. And what with all the hotels being closed down and used for illegal immigrants and all of that, and it costing £7 million a day, and all these criminal politicians want to bring in more racketeering, until one day the English Constitutional Party are going to say, right, and they're going to be riots. And I've been predicting this for 2 decades. So anyway, I was sitting with my partner. We went to Greg's, and do you remember, if you've been watching my YouTube channel, last year I made a video. I've made hundreds of videos because I've just been talking about I got a £15 apology from Greg's because I was harassed by a red-haired witch in Greg's who's got a mouth on her, and my partner has now heard it for himself. She's a gossip. You only have to go into Greg's and you can hear her voice, and it's one of those voices. It's old 50, 60-ish year old woman, bulldog chewing a wasp type. One of those mouths. So he's heard it for himself. He's heard the mouth on a stick. And I was sitting with the character, Eastbourne is like a caricature English seaside town, and I'm part of the club. Me and my partner have sort of joined the club, if you like. And we attract, because we're friendly, we're children of Yahweh. We may not be the B'nai Elohim, but we're children of Yahweh. And there's a Jesus loves you character, and I don't want to say his name because he's very vulnerable, but if you're ever in Eastbourne and you hear Jesus loves you, it's like a Tourette's, bless him. He did turn, I stopped thinking he was quite sweet and gentle when he started saying, oh, you're like as if I'm a bad person. He went a bit funny with me, but people aren't well. There are a lot of unwell people in Eastbourne. Not that there's any excuse for it, but he was there with this other vulnerable friend of his, because that's how I knew her name was Jean, this horrible woman, because they later told me, because I was so angry. So I was sitting with these 2 vulnerable older men of a certain age, 50s, 60s, 70s, somewhere in that age group. And this happened last year. And this woman, as I made a video about it when I was self-funding the Cavendish Hotel for 9 months. I made a video about it, and she just started harassing me and my tea on the floor, and my coat. I know about these things. I've worked in health and safety, and I thought, oh gosh, she's a funny one, and I just ignored it because I'm in a state of PTSD all the time because of what has been happening over the past 7 years. And she made a comment about people who work in mental health units, and I remember thinking to myself, even there and then, I thought, oh, hello. And she said, oh, they work very hard. And I said, well, my experience of it is not like that. And then she said, in this sort of gang stalking way, oh no, you've had it easy. And I said, well, I prefer to disagree. Now, if you don't mind, I don't want to talk, I'm speaking to these gentlemen, so if you don't mind. Well, you started it, this nutcase. And I said, no, I did not. Could you please leave me alone? You're harassing me. And I dealt with it like a normal person. So this nutter, this red-haired Jean in Greggs. So if you're ever in Greggs in Eastbourne, look out. And she went up to the desk. I called security. I thought, oh gosh, this is all I need. So it's this gang stalking. And this Dan, funnily enough, his name was Dan. But this security guard was on my side. He said the way she's acted is as if you've come at her with a knife. So she's obviously got a name for herself. But wait till you hear this. Because I got a £15 apology from Greggs because the management, they all started getting funny, and it's a shame because there's a guy in there who used to give me, Connor and Savannah, they used to give me cakes, and it's very strange how my TripAdvisor review has been removed, very mysteriously removed, because I didn't remove it. I gave, back in 2016, I said how nice they were and that they used to give me free cakes in there and free tea. But then the atmosphere has somehow changed. That's Eastbourne all over. There's a very sinister, there are a lot of cults in Eastbourne. It was on a website, one of the worst. I mean, even Councillor Josh Babarundi has alluded to it. He was born in Eastbourne. But look at how weird he's been with me. How does he know about my YouTube channel? Why did he ignore my online application last year when I was self-funding the Cavendish for my safety? So anyway, so he wouldn't even tell me how he knew about my YouTube channel. But anyway, if you really got to know what's going on right beneath the surface to know why these people are failing to stop and correct, not doing their paid duty to us, the people, the constituents, because it gets darker and darker and darker the deeper you go. But it's their choice. Anyway, so basically it all started yesterday when me and Darren were sitting in with our cup of tea. So we'd seen that Jean was in Greggs. He went to get the cup of tea, and because we have these, those loyalty cards, and we went and sat down. Then his actor friend, I've got to be very careful how I say this because I don't want to give too much away. But he's got a friend who's an actor who's been in a few things. He's on IMDb, and he's been in pantomimes, he's been in dramas, he's done this and that. He has got a sort of pantomime dame feel about him. He's got like a Christopher Biggins feel about him, Robert. I'm not going to say his surname. But Robert stopped and spoke to us, and he said, because he was living in directly opposite me when I was at Cavendish Place. I've got to be careful how I say this now. In the place where I complained about leaks, and there was a nutter leaving his drugs lying around, and there was a woman on steroids because of bed bugs, and John Tutty of Eastbourne Borough Council, who I told the paralegal, do not get that man to speak to me. That's fraud. I don't know why he hasn't been sacked, because he should stay working at Sainsbury's. This is someone who said to me, don't worry, Bryony, I've got you on the phone now. I can get you into a flat. And I said to him, John, I've rung you up because the kitchen is flooding, and the plumber confirmed that the washer on the tap had gone. And he types up a fraudulent Section 184 saying that I broke everything that I had complained about, because I had spoken on behalf of all the other vulnerable licensees, the one who was on steroids because of bed bugs and all of this and that, and she got a UTI because of that idiot who was leaving disgusting. Oh, these people were just absolute nightmare. You've never known anything like this in my entire existence. Welcome to the UK. But yeah, they are criminals. These are frauds. I am dealing with criminals at Eastbourne Borough Council all the time. So anyway, it's just that the difference is I'm not a coward, unlike them. I'm not afraid to speak out. This is why someone like me should be a parent, because I've got my mother's morals and my beautiful adoptive grandmother's morals. Praise Yahweh. My grandmother who lived through 2 world wars, my mother who lived through 1 world war, and I'm still here. I'm still battling it. I'm not on drugs. I'm not on. See, this is what's giving me a will to live. I'm seeing so much. I'm coming into all this truth. So anyway, Robert was saying to me and to my partner that basically he's now got gypsies living where he lives, and part of the block of flats is being used as a brothel. They've got, in the basement, there are drugs being dealt. The police don't do anything. Does it sound familiar? Yes, it does. Because PC Scott Franklin Nesta was arresting me when I was helping a plainclothes police officer. I'm a victim of attempted rape. I told Robert, Darren's actor friend, I said I came close to suing the Herald for libel. People don't just totally, they don't wake up, they don't care. But he's normalised it. He said that the landlord next door to him is a rogue landlord. Well, isn't that interesting? Because I was living directly opposite Robert, and I had this horrible, bitchy mother and daughter, fake as you like, mother and daughter, landlady and daughter. And just because the mother was an ex-headmistress, it doesn't matter what they are. They're all crooks. They changed I was living directly opposite Robert, and they changed the locks in February 2018 when it had started to snow, and I'm now paying storage for other people's unsanitary waste, including a hospital towel and an incontinence pad. I went and bought a pound. For £1, I bought a duvet, went up to Beachy Head. It started to snow, went up there feeling suicidal. And who turned up? PC Scott Franklin Nesta Sr. Yeah, do you see where I'm going with this? They don't care. They could not care less. Yet it costs £7 million a day to put up these illegal immigrants who many of them are young men, many of them are criminals, and many of them are raping school children and stabbing babies in pushchairs, like the ones in France. And this is what you lot only have yourselves to blame. So don't complain about it if you ain't going to get off your arse and do something. Grow up, grow a pair. Don't expect anyone to give a damn about your suffering if you're not going to do anything. You're going to attack others. Because you're nothing. You're nothing. When I was 8 years old, over 30 years ago, I said, I'd love to have a baby one day, but I know that this world is going to be more evil. And it is. And it's worse than I ever could have imagined. The reality of it. Oh yeah, I found out that dinosaurs don't really exist. You know, Darwin was just I worked at Paradise Park. My mother did a scene with Sam Neill in Wimbledon. All the lies, all the Jurassic Park stuff, all the dinosaur stuff. They took us to Paradise Park when we were children. I worked at Paradise Park with a Freemason who wanted to impregnate me as part of a satanic ritual. Really? I don't know, but that's what he told my mother. And my mother was angry because she said, how dare he say that in our house where she feels safe. He was older than my father. And no, I'm not even talking about Dave Prowse, because Dave Prowse was older than my mother. Yeah, the guy who played Darth Vader. I've got so many links to all this satanic stuff because they like the masks and they like all that stuff, don't they? And then, of course, Ingrid Pitt, who complimented me at the NEC, she was in The Wicker Man. And as I said to my partner, that's like a documentary for satanic ritual abuse. You've got everything going on there. I remember seeing children dancing round the maypole when I was a child. It's in the horror film. It's all there. And they sacrificed the police officer, not the child, at the end. And Ingrid Pitt, who's in that horror film, she paid me one of the best compliments I've ever had in my entire life. You know, Ingrid Pitt. And, well, the guy who made the satanic ritual abuse conference for Jeanette Archer and all that, he made a video about Christopher Lee that's really very insightful and very makes you wonder about him. I mean, when's a hammer horror just a hammer horror? We know where vampirism comes from. Vlad the Drac, Vlad the Impaler. Vlad the Impaler, he impaled his victims and drank their blood, and he was related to Prince Charles. The Red Dragon, the satanic bloodline. Anyway, but there we go. So I'm going off slightly. So yesterday, so my partner's actor friend is living in a block of flats across the place from one of these hellhole places that I went through hell in. And he's been living there for years, and it's been turned into a brothel and a drug den. There's so much of it going on in Eastbourne. But I've got evidence of damning council meeting minutes. They don't like me because I'm telling the truth, and they want to polish a turd, basically, because it's a holiday destination. It's the sunset. It's the sun trap of the south. If you're living in Meads, if you're very, very middle class, and perhaps slightly well off, or if you just live in a nicer area of Eastbourne, you'll be okay. And of course, if your health is But as me and the manager of Poundland were saying, you know, if you suffer with your mental health, you're screwed, basically. So, and they will drive you to near insanity with their MK Ultra and everything. But you've really got to see the conference to know what is coming and how people have been trained up for the New World Order. And there will be people who are probably in the army and the police force who don't even know that they have, you know. Anyway, so, but on that note, I've got something funny to say. So Jean, yeah, that red-haired witch in Greg's. So while we were talking to Robert, my partner's actor friend, and he was saying these horrors that were happening where he lives, out of nowhere, this young lad, he looked no more than 20, I'd say he was a teenager, he was shouting and swearing enough to make heads turn at this woman who was walking in front of him. And the woman walking in front of him had red hair, that same fake red, fake red hair, what do you call it? You know, that shade of red that's unnatural. I don't know how to describe, like a sort of maroon red sort of colour. And it was the same colour red hair that this Jean has. But I didn't think it was her, because we were like, me, Robert and Darren were looking, and my partner said, it's her. She's getting her comeuppance. It's the Jean from Greg's. And I said, are you sure? It didn't look like it. I said she had the same colour hair. He said, no, I can guarantee she was wearing the same clothes. I know because I looked at her, and my partner has got a photographic memory, so I said, are you sure? Because he had he said, no, it had to be. Because I said, that's not really I said, well, I was wondering if maybe it was he was having a go at his mother or something. But then no one would really shout at their mother like that. But, well, anyway, my partner, if he's so sure that it was her, because he looked at her when he bought the tea, because I didn't want to go in when I saw her. So we were sitting where the child thing is. We were sitting on the child thing that you sit on in the middle of the shopping centre. And he said, no, that's her. So she's obviously getting what she... So he said, well, you know, maybe you'll get some comfort from that, you know. So, yeah, obviously, I'm guessing this Jean, he said, if she's not... My partner said if she's not careful, she'll get, you know, into, you know, trouble. Well, I said, well, that's given me encouragement, because I actually want to phone up Worthing Psychiatric Unit and say, oi, I wasn't actually going to say it in my YouTube channel. I wasn't going to say it until I'd done it, because I know there are infiltrators, obviously, on YouTube. There are some nasty people out there. But I'm having the last laugh. So, you know, if she's going to go round, Darren said to me, I heard her. She's got a loud mouth. She's spouting all this. So you'll get what's coming to you if you stick your nose in. Nasty old woman. So she's got what's come. She's got, you know, people. You'll get what's coming to you. So that's a comfort. And the only thing that really annoyed me was I'd just gone into Savers and I bought some Vanish and some Unstoppables, and I left my Savers bag. Someone made off with it because we went to report it, and the security people in the Arndale /Beacon, they said It's not your day-to-day. People have been reporting that their wallets have gone missing, so I don't think they'll be handing in your savers bag. So anyway, and just to top it off, this will give you a laugh. It gave me a laugh, as I said. This isn't being nasty, because there are people out there who have disabilities. And, you know, I've done care work, and my sister's worked with. So this is, you know, you got to. I had a typical experience yesterday, shall we say. It's a typical experience that you get on the 12 bus. So let's just say that. I've been going on the 12 bus. Well, I used to. It was pretty much like the school bus that I went on. Same double-decker bus between New Haven and Seaford when I was a child, and I've been going on the 712, which is now the 12 bus, for like over 2 decades. So I've seen a lot, and there's something about living in East Sussex. Don't ask me why. There are a lot of crazy people down here, and I've seen everything. I've even seen teenage boys on the top deck use it as a toilet. So it goes beyond just smoking. Let's just say that. But I've seen everything. And last night, coming back this way, I'm not going to say what town I'm in right now, but I grew up in this town, and I was coming back here, and when we got to Seaford, there was because the bus was late turning up, and there were 2 women at the bus stop, and they were like, "Oh, the bus hasn't turned up," and the one with the blonde hair was like, "Oh, it hasn't turned up," and we were both complaining about it. When we got on the bus, there was a woman with Down syndrome, and again, I'm not laughing at someone's disability. She just happened to have Down syndrome, but she had mental capacity, because she was sitting in front of me, and she was playing with her phone and taking pictures and talking and messaging, but she was making this noise. And again, I'm not making fun of her, because I would say the same about someone who hasn't got a disability, a visible disability, but she was making a noise like this. And the woman in front of her was the same woman who'd been with me at the bus stop. And what was funny was I wasn't laughing at the disability. I was laughing at the fact that the woman with the blonde hair was irritated by this, and she was looking over her back like, it's the way she was doing it. It's the look on her face that was making me laugh. It was her irritation by this. So she got up and she said, I heard her mumble something like, "I've had enough of this." And she went to sit opposite me at the back. And I was giggling, and she noticed me giggling, and she smiled. Anyway, she said goodbye when she got off at Seaford. And there's a little part of me that feels really bad saying this, but I hope this will give someone a bit of a laugh, because it made me laugh. I need a laugh. The lady with Down syndrome, when we got off, when she was getting off at her stop, her trousers had fallen down, her leggings were, and she bared a full moon, shall we say. So she had a full moon on show. And I don't want to be rude, but it wasn't a small one, it was quite a big one. And I went to say, I was going to say, excuse me. I went like this. But there was quite a long gap between her getting up and her pulling her leggings up. And I looked at the girl behind me and I smiled because I was like, has anyone else noticed this? Is it just me? And the girl behind me smiled as if to say, yes, I've noticed as well. So thankfully she got off the bus and pulled her trousers up. So that gave me a smile. That's just a typical 12 bus thing. And I hope that's given someone a smile, you know. You gotta, when everything's so heavy and you're traumatized, you need things to make you smile and laugh. And as my partner said, the chappie, the Eastbourne caricature chappie whose name I won't mention, Jesus Loves You Man, my partner said he remembers getting on a bus and he often has loads and loads of badges, that Christian badges, and he's thinking, gosh, so-and-so, where are all your badges? And he said as he got off the bus, he turned and there it was on either his jumper or his hat, Jesus loves you in massive letters. Because this particular man, it's like a Tourette's. You know, he's always saying, Jesus loves you, bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you, Jesus loves you. And I said to my partner about the time he got on the bus, I was on the top deck and he was downstairs, and I knew it was him because I recognised his voice. And all I could hear was, oh, sorry. Oh, I just stepped in dog poo. Oh. And I was laughing, and there was a girl behind me who was practically in tears laughing. And there you go. So you need this sort of thing. It helps with your sanity. So anyway, there we are. I've just gone over. It's now been an hour and 12 minutes. But yeah, no, there's a lot to say there. So I thought I'd just finish on a funny note, because whilst we're exposing the darkness and experiencing these horrible things and these horrible places and all the corruption and everything, we need something to smile about. So Shalom Yahweh, and I'll end the video on that note.